Alright everyone, we have successfully completed our video gaming journey through Lost Records, Bloom, and Rage. And overall impressions, really solid, fantastic game. I think going into a game, so as per usual, going into a game like this, I have no idea what the game is going to be about. All I know is it's a mystery, don't know the game with a bunch of girls, which automatically I'm going to play that, of course. The time of women is now over, very true. I've had a pretty poor track record with both Don't Know the games and with the Life is Strange series since the first game, so usually going into a game like this, I assume I'm going to like a few things, but overall come out with a mediocre opinion of the game. That's usually what happens. But with Lost Records Bloom Rage, I think we've had like the opposite happen. I actually left this feeling like this is a extremely well executed game with a lot of good mechanics in it, and overall an overall good plot with an interesting mystery. So I'm actually really happy about how this went, and I'm dreading reading like the Wikipedia. Like I already read on Wikipedia that the game didn't meet sales expectations or whatever, which I completely get that, because this probably costs a lot of money to make at this quality. But also, you know, I don't want to. If they plan to do a second game here, I would love to see that. I think that would be very fun. So, as per usual, I have no notes. I have nothing written down. So we're just going off the top of the dome. I don't even exactly know where to start with this. We'll probably just ramble a bit all over the place would be my assumption. I'm just thinking if there's anything particular I want to say immediately. I think that from a gameplay perspective, games like this can often feel like there's not a lot going on. And the solution to that in the original Life is Strange was to just have time travel powers. So in the scenes, you're rewinding time, and that's kind of what you do in that game, which created some very rudimentary, but at least dynamic gameplay moments, right? You couldn't really do much with the time travel mechanic. You can't, like, drastically alter events to an insane margin, but it allowed you to get a little bit of control over scenes by like, oh, I tried an option, let me rewind time and try again and see what happens, right? And in this one, we kind of you do play a bit with a rewind mechanic, but that's just a rewind on the camera where you're like, oh, wait, the scene didn't happen like that, and that only happens a couple of times, so it's not really relevant, I don't think. But you do have a camera that you play with, and I think that the camera, both from a narrative perspective and from a gameplay perspective, added a lot to the game for me. I think that the I can look at the recordings, right? So it doesn't let us like look at all my recordings here, but if you like look at Cat, for instance, right? Let me more. I think that the way okay, ignore the butt shots. I think that the way this both looks and the detail of it and the fact that you're filming it and you also have full control over the camera, because you can use the gyro in the controller to actually like move the camera any way that you want. I think this adds a fantastic layer to the game where it feels like like I actually filmed this and I filmed these scenes and I zoomed in and I did the hash shots. Like I'm responsible for all this, right? And it makes them feel very personal in a way they wouldn't otherwise. But it also makes it feel like almost realistic to an extent, right? Like looking at these, can I just we can't like look at the like look, oh, whoops, forest girls. Like looking at these scenes, there's something about them that feels really real, despite the fact that the game doesn't have like photorealistic graphics. There's something about this that makes it feel extremely real to me in a weird way. Like it doesn't feel like this is like a recording from a game. It feels like it's like an actual real recording. Despite it doesn't look real, right? Like it might be the way the filter looks with the way the characters look or something. I don't know what it is, but it has a really like genuine vibe to it, which is awesome. I don't know how they capture that, but that's actually really cool. It's a really cool part of the game. And it really incentivizes you to actually get cool shots and to use the camcorder, which is super cool. Not sure how they pulled it off, but it's probably a combination of a lot of factors. First of all, everything in this game had to be insanely high detailed because you can actually zoom in on anything. And when you zoom in, it has like an, it's not a blurred out texture that you can't see. It's a real texture. That probably took a lot of effort and required a lot of money, I would assume. I don't know how they pulled that off either. The character modes in the game look really, really good, despite not being, Naughty Dog levels or like Death Stranding levels of realistic textures or whatever. They managed to make all the characters feel super alive, and that's was a huge bonus to the game, I think. So it was just a lot of the stuff that I think accumulated to make the visuals of the game really, really good. I like the aesthetic of it. I like the way it looks. I like the details on the models. I love all the stuff you do with the camera. That stuff was great. And the fact that they integrate the camera stuff into other parts of the game is also it's also an incredible thing, right? You're forced to film certain things. You can't avoid it. You just have to film some things. Those are just you film those and you don't have a choice. GG. If you don't want to do it, then sucks to be you. Other stuff is optional, and I got most of the optional stuff. I didn't get all of it, but for a lot of the optional stuff, that also gets added into your overall footage, which is cool. Because at the end of the game, as you saw, there's a tape that plays with your music video, and that was just stuff that I filmed. That's not pre-programmed stuff that anyone has filmed. That's unique to me. That recording was completely unique to me, and that's awesome, I think. I should check out achievements real quick. So 41% of players finished the game. That's pretty good. That's a really good number, I think. That's super, super solid. Our rarest achievement was change outfit at every opportunity. The rarest achievement is complete all collectible memoirs. It's a called the wrong number thing. We'll see you again in 7 years. That's not completion, right? Yeah, I think that's pretty good for a game like this, for sure. Tried all shapes on the pin screen. Captured a new subject in collectible mode. Rolled a natural 20. I can roll a dice? Oh yeah, what about that lock? How do you get the code to the lock? Let's check that out right now. Lost Records, Bloom, and Rage code lock. Fence. Corey Dillon's lock. Let's see how you're actually supposed to know that. You go through the bag on Corey's bike instead of an ID as in portfolio. 1994. Wait, was it just 1994? The code was 0827. Oh, I guess it doesn't do anything. It's just a little Easter egg, I guess. That's cool. Yeah, I think from a gameplay perspective, that's kind of it. I don't have much more to add from a gameplay perspective. I think well, I guess one thing this game does decently well, which is the thing that I struggle with a lot of these games, is that it usually makes it pretty clear when you're leaving a scene, when your choice will change something, or when it takes you out of the game. That means that you almost never have to be worried about like doing something that will take you out of the scene, right? In a game like this, I like to explore everything. So I want to see, oh, what is this thing over here? What's that thing over there? What's this thing in the cabin? Oh, let me pick this thing up and look at it. Let me look at this thing. And the game has a very clear icon for when the thing you're interacting with is going to end the scene. It doesn't guarantee that you're never going to come back there or that you'll leave the scene immediately, but it at least tells you that if you interact with this thing, that's when something more will happen. And that's awesome. That's great. That really alleviates a lot of my like anxiety in games like this, which is that I want to go. If we're supposed to go left, I want to go right, and then I want to look at everything to the right, and then I want to go left and look at everything there, and then I want to leave the scene. And in some games, just like you don't know if you're supposed to go left or right, so you go right, and then it turns to that's where you're supposed to go, and then it starts a cutscene, so you have to load the game back to go left, and then you go left, and there's like nothing there basically, so you just wasted a bunch of time. In this, it gives you time to just look through everything, interact with everything. There's no point in the game, as far as I could see, where you're like rushed to like finish it now. So that's awesome. I think that the way the choices work too is good. It actually shows you when your choice had like a particular type of impact, so you don't have to be worried about like, wait, did that do anything? And it also shows some of your significant choices, which probably makes this easier to replay. I like I said, I'm probably a bit interested in doing a replay of it just by myself, just to see if I can get to the quote-unquote perfect ending in it. Though the only problem I have is that like I feel like in order to do that you probably have to play through the game and like make the right choices every time, and if you make the wrong choice you have to just keep replaying it. But honestly, replaying this game if you're not doing all the camcording stuff is probably pretty fast, I would assume. Probably do that in like 5 hours or something. Yeah, from a story perspective, which, you know, that's kind of the meat of the game, I think the story overall is really good. I think that they did a good job of telling a compelling narrative with a good overarching mystery where you care about what's happening, you are engaged with the characters, and you're engaged with the mystery. And they had a good, diverse cast of characters that were all interesting in their own way, right? Like, I kind of chose to not romance anyone particular until it was kind of like I'm just leaning in that direction, right? So at the start I was like, okay, do I make choices because I like Nora or I like Kat or I like Autumn? Or do I just kind of let the choices speak for themselves? And we chose to let the choices speak for themselves, and we ended up with Nora eventually. But I would be super interested to see like how the Kat romance looks, what the Autumn romance looks like. Or I mean, you could just do no romance too, right? You don't have to romance anyone. And that's completely valid. But yeah, the romances were like, I really liked the Nora romance. It was cool. I thought it played out well. You don't have any crazy sex scenes or anything, but you just have some very intimate moments where you hang out together and you kiss and stuff like that, which was cool. I think I can go through the scene selection, maybe just like get like an idea of like. I thought that this like future and past narrative is cool too, where, you know, in the future we're kind of like having this somber reunion where we're not really sure what's going to happen to the characters yet, and it plays into the things that are happening in the past where we meet each other in a kind of haphazard way where we encounter Dylan and Corey, and then they start bullying us, and the girls show up to stand up for us, and Corey steals Autumn's keys and throws them away, so we have to go find them. And that kind of initiates this whole like summer experience we have, where we end up in this cabin in the woods that we start to refurbish, and then we just hang out at the cabin, and we eventually find the abyss, this mysterious hole, in a place where we did a like a blood ritual together, which is cool. And I think they did a decent job of always moving the narrative forwards. Like I always felt like stuff was going on. I always felt like the things that were happening were important to the narrative, so that was cool. I think the one place where I think they could have done like maybe a slightly better job. Just 1 second, I gotta open my window. Oh. What the hell? Oh. I'm blind now. I think where they probably could have done a slightly better job, in my opinion, is like, I feel like the game is missing a little bit of scale, maybe. It doesn't feel, you know, it feels very it feels a bit short, maybe a bit lacking in the way the mystery and the story unfolds, right? Like, nothing really happens in the story until the end. We have cool character moments, and those character moments are great, don't get me wrong, but there's no like important thing in the story until the very end of the story, right? I'm gonna spoil Life is Strange here, so if you... I'm not gonna spoil the entire game, I'm gonna spoil the beginning of Life is Strange. But it's a big spoiler, so if you're worried about that, just turn your ears off, I guess. But at the very start of Life is Strange, within the first 3 minutes of the game, a girl gets shot. She just gets shot. And that's the start of that game, right? That's how that game begins. And there's a secondary narrative to the game, which is that there's a missing girl called Rachel Amber. She's missing. So at the very start of the game of Life is Strange, very, very short into the game, a girl gets shot, and there's a mystery of a missing girl, right? So we have these two kind of missing narrative pieces from the very beginning of the game. There's no, you know, it starts off with a bang. This game ends with a bang, right? At the start of this game, nothing mysterious is happening, and then as we go through this, you know, the mystery kind of begins like here. You know, at the last 90% of Tape On is when the mystery begins. We uncover the abyss, but we don't really do anything with the abyss, right? Nothing really happens with the abyss. We have our little concert, which is cool, and then we jump into tape number 2, and like even here we have this like weird nightmare which doesn't really do anything for us, and then nothing really happens here, nothing really happens here. We try to break Cat out, we go to the meteor shower, then we meet again by the abyss. Once again, nothing's really happening though. We don't like, there's no like crazy thing happening. We tear everything down, enter the void, and then like right here is the bang. This is when we this is when we all get together and we push Corey in, right? So it's like, I can kind of see why some people wouldn't find this game too interesting or too engaging, or why they would leave earlier in the game, because while the story is good and the characters are good, and while the, you know, there's like an interesting narrative happening where I was engaged with just the girls being the girls and just doing things together and sticking together. There's no overarching mystery or any big bang happening, right? Like everything happens essentially towards the end of the game, which I think they could have done a better job with that, right? Like, give us something earlier in the game that we're working towards. Give us something that, you know, this is what we're here for. This is what the girls are doing. This is why they're together. We could have had Dylan disappear at the start of the game, right? And we're like, why did Dylan disappear, right? And we don't remember it. But in reality, maybe the girls got together and murdered him or something, right? They pushed him into the abyss at the start of the game rather than the ending of the game. We could have had more strange things happening because of the abyss, right? Like, you know, we throw a thing into the abyss and then something happens. We're like, whoa, that's weird. So you kind of get that a little bit. It's like I think is it Pet Cemetery that horror movie is called? I think it's Pet Cemetery, but we could have had that thing where it's like, you know, we encountered the abyss and we learned that by sacrificing things into the abyss, it makes things happen in real life. So maybe we sacrifice something into the abyss and then a person that was missing comes back, or we you know, maybe Pumpkin dies and Pumpkin comes back again. You know, we could have had strange things happen based on our interactions with the abyss, but that doesn't really happen. Like, we have strange things occurring that seem to be abyss related, but they're mostly just kind of people being possessed by the abyss and doing strange out of character things, right? So I think that's where the game is lacking the most. I still enjoyed the game and I still had fun with the story of it, but that's kind of what I would have wanted from the game. I would have wanted more involvement with the mystery or more intense things happening that kind of brought us together. Because we're kind of doing the rebel narrative where we're like the outcasts of society, kind of hanging together, getting together because we are the outcasts. but then nothing really establishes that other than Corey being an asshole, right? It's just Corey's an asshole, essentially. That's the narrative. And we hate Corey, and then we end up killing him in the end. Killing or trapping in the abyss, one of the two. So yeah, that's kind of like the one place where I would say like the game could have improved on the story for my part. That would have made the narrative a bit grander, would have given me more reason to be engaged with it. But I think the fact that they managed to keep the narrative so compelling without that is really telling. They did a good job with the characters and the story and the recording the footage. I loved the band mode was great. It does have a lot of really solid moments. I think that the whole garage band lights camera action scene was really cool. The all the cabin in the wood stuff was great. I loved engaging with the cabin. I think that the Abyss stuff was great. That was awesome. I loved the concert. The Boom and Rage concert was super good. They did a great job with that. Infiltration, that scene was all the stuff with the Rapunzel scenes were super good. I loved Wishing on Stars. The Gathering was great. Burning the place down, running through the forest. The Void things were great. All of the ending stuff was super good. So I think they did an overall really good job with it. I'm really happy with the way the game ended. I also think that and this is kind of what Life is Strange 1 did really well. There's two things that Life is Strange 1 did great, which this game managed to capture, which is the music interacting with the game. In Life is Strange 1, they had an incredible soundtrack, which was chosen from indie artists and other artists that came together to create a really compelling narrative. And they did the same in this. All the music was on point. It created a lot of super emotional scenes. Where the music is an important part of that narrative, right? It even had the Life is Strange moments where you just sit down and you just reminisce. You're just sitting there and music is just happening and you're looking around and you're thinking in your head. And it gives you these moments to kind of think about the game yourself. That was awesome. The fact that like being a band was an important part of the game was super cool. That also kind of gave the game another layer for the music to play on, which was great. I loved the scene at the end here with Nora where she's playing the song, and it's just actually a good rendition of the song that we made in the game. That was super good. Pet the doggo, I can pet him. Hiya, place. That was on. What is the other thing? I was gonna say that they did well. Oh, the mystery. In Life is Strange as well, they don't really like resolve the mystery. They don't tell you, oh, this is why this happened. This is how Max got her time travel powers, blah blah blah, right? They don't tell you. They don't explicitly explain what's going on, what parts of the narrative mean, and they did the same in this thing. They don't explain the abyss. We don't know, is the abyss real? Did we just make that up? What happened to Kat? Did she die in the forest that day? Maybe she died in the cabin fire. Maybe Corey died in the cabin fire too, and we're just choosing not to remember it. Or is it real? Right? They do a good job of keeping that ambiguous so that you can make up your own mind, and I love that. They explain the mystery enough that it's not just like random bullshit that you can't comprehend, but it's enough explanation that you can be like, is it real? Is it not? It could be real. It seems like it's real, but it could also not be real. There. What, Scratcher? Yeah, I really... Dude. Yeah. Dude. Like that. Like that. Sorry about that, guys. I really like that. I think that's those two things are like super important to me to make a game like this compelling, and they did a good job with both of those. They made well, I guess the third thing is the characters. All the characters in this are likable. They're awesome. They are they're extremely well written, extremely well performed. The mystery was while the mystery isn't, it's not important enough to the narrative for me to think that it's really good. they at least did a good job with like establishing it and not explaining it too much, but also explaining it enough that you can make up your own mind. And for the music, they did a super good job of incorporating the music in a way where it makes sense with the narrative, and where you can like sit through a moment in the game and just listen to the music. The music is blasting, and you're just having an emotional moment. That's awesome. I love that. That's what I love in Life is Strange, right? It's the music is so on point in that game. It's incredible, and that's what they kind of failed with in the future Life is Strange games for me. They just didn't incorporate the music correctly, and in this they did that. I don't know they didn't make the future Life is Strange games, so I'm not blaming them for that. I'm just saying like, well, they made Life is Strange 2, which has the same, which somehow has that problem, but yeah. So that was overall really good. I don't think there's anything else I want to talk about with the game before we maybe look at some Steam reviews and review the game ourselves. I think, and this might be my hottest take. This might be my hottest take out of the whole bag. I think that all of the characters looked cool, but listen. I don't mind characters that are here. Let me just look at a picture. I think that, you know, having characters that don't look I think having characters that don't look that aren't traditionally attractive, whatever you want to call it, right? I think that's fine. I feel like Swan's look is a bit out of place. I don't mind Swan being like overweight or whatever. I have no problem with her, and that's also the thing that I think is good that they did. I think it's cool that they made, like, you know, Swan isn't, you know, she is overweight, and that's fine. That's the part of her character design, and they made that part of the narrative too, right? They didn't just pretend that she's not overweight. Corey bullied her, called her a fatso, right? It's like, and she has like body issues. That's awesome. I just feel like the way she looks, she's like the most awkward, chubby imaginable. She kind of looks like a square sometimes, which feels a bit weird in the game. I think there's some scenes where she looks a bit out of place to me. I think some of it is like it's like her proportions. You know, they're all supposed to be like 16 years old, say 15 or 16 or something like that, right? And she just, sometimes she looks like she's like 12. I think I probably would have preferred for Swan to have, you know, she can be fat, I don't care about that, but just different body proportions. Because her character just looks a bit cartoony, I think, sometimes. The way she's like designed just sometimes comes off as a little bit cartoony rather than, you know, chubby or fat or whatever, which I don't think matches the way the other characters look. I feel these characters all look like very real in a sense, while it's like a fancy dwarf lady. Yeah, exactly. That's the, yeah, sure. Add a beard. Yeah. It's just like I don't think it's like objectively bad or whatever. I have no problem with her being a being fat, being chubby. That's cool, great for her. It's just something about her exact proportions that where I just like, she just looks weird. I think it might be that she's just so short and she's so like chubby that just makes her look a bit weird. But yeah, that's like the one character design I probably would have changed personally. Oh wow, you can see the different makeup styles. Visual's grunge. I think goth will look really cool. This extinguishes are like the moth features, I guess. But yeah, that's like my one take. She's stocky like a fancy dwarf, not chubby. Like, yeah, that's true. Stocky is a good word for it. Honestly, saying that she looks like a fancy dwarf is exactly what I've been imagining in my head. That actually put the picture completely perfectly in my head. Compared to other characters, she looks like a fantasy dwarf. So yeah, I think having characters that are not conventionally attractive, whatever you want to say, is fine, right? She's not supposed to be She's not supposed to be a sex object in the game. She's a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever. That's great. If you want that character to be a awkward, chubby 16-year-old, that's awesome. More power to you. I just think her proportions made her look more like a fancy dwarf than a chubby 16-year-old. So I would say that's probably like my one criticism for the character design. I think that would have helped me engage with the game a little bit more. I don't even think her proportions are unrealistic necessarily either, to be clear. I think people definitely have these proportions. It's just, I don't know if it worked for me. I think it's only just some scenes too. Like, she looks fine here. I don't have any problem with this. I think it's just some scenes where she looks a little bit odd. I don't know what the trailer for this game actually looked like how much they spoiled. Oh yeah, we missed this scene. This scene we missed. Okay, I'm a bit curious to see other people's opinions. So is that an 87? That's not too bad. Cat has cancer in hell. The hell? In hell. It's like, this person's saying that the story is slow, and honestly, that's kind of what I agree with, right? Like, the story is like, it just kind of does nothing until the end of the game, right? Which, if you're into the slice of life stuff, if you don't mind it, then it's good, which I didn't mind at all. But that's a completely fair criticism. But they do say that they just saw some boring gameplay, like filming stuff and finding toothbrush. I think the filming stuff was incredible. I think that's one of the best parts of the game, and the finding toothbrush takes you 3 seconds, so. Poorly written dialogue. Nah. I guess part of the narrative that we didn't really talk about is like, you know, this idea that they, which I guess maybe is a fault of the game a little bit, that they didn't delve into this enough either. They talked about it a lot, but they didn't really like. They didn't bring it up to an extent where it was prevalent in my mind, which is a part of the narrative. It's supposed to be that we forgot all of this, and we're remembering it, and it's supposed to be tragic that we did forget all of it. And it doesn't, you know, they sell that, but it doesn't feel like they sell it enough where it was prevalent in my mind at the end. I didn't really, I feel like at the end of this, I'm supposed to, if this is told correctly, at the end, I'm supposed to think about all the things we missed out on, right? Because we forgot each other, all the moments we could have had, all of the people we forgot, all the memories we shared that were lost. I feel like if that was in my head at the end, I would have been way, way sadder. But they didn't really put that as enough of the narrative at the end there for me to even think about it. It was just kind of lost to me. That would have been a good thing to kind of put in there, I think. Ugh. One of the nature reviews is kind of cringe. Like, it took 19 hours of charging to get to the end of the story, and it honestly only about 90 minutes of actual story happened in those 19 hours. That is kind of true. That is kind of true. That is a pretty valid criticism. The mocap and facial animations are so good that you just read expressions. Yeah, it was really, really well done. Yeah, this was the same thing I said, alright? Like, I think back to Life is Strange about how in the first 15 minutes of the game you're invested in the story because of spoilers. Nothing happens in this game. I mean, you're not wrong. The most boring game in my entire life. That's crazy. That's wild. Well, I think we've I think we've read enough people bashing on the game. Alright, so having played this video game, oh, one thing, big thing that I didn't mention. That person clearly never seen Wrath of Righteous. Big thing that I didn't mention. One thing this game, and I cannot say if this is true or not, so I can only go by vibes here, but one thing this game seems to have is a lot of replayability and a lot of rewatchability. You know, when we went through these options right here, when we went into the extras and the choices recap, especially for tape 2, some of the alternatives here seem crazy to me. Like having like Cat being violently claimed by the Abyss, or the Abyss pulling Corey in harmony with the girls. There's a lot of stuff. Everyone sticks together at the end. There's a lot of stuff here that when I look at it, I think, man, replaying this game could be really, really cool. Watching the person play could be really, really cool. I don't know if that's the case or not. It could be that these changes are so minimal that they're pointless. But if that is the case, that is awesome. And I'm going to pretend that's the case for scoring the game. So we have an Endaline scale. 10 is a flawless masterpiece. 9, everyone should play this. 8, great experience worth playing. 7, good play if it sounds fun. 6, alright, play if you like the genre. 5, average. 4, still functioning game. 3, very worth playing. 2, everyone should avoid this. And 1, no redeemable qualities. I think from a gameplay perspective and from a character perspective, so if you're just judging the gameplay and the characters, this could have been in the 9s easily. The characters are like a 9.5, I think. They're extremely well written. They're extremely well performed. Their relationships are believable. They're just overall great characters. I really enjoy the gameplay, and the camcorder mechanic is incredible. It's super good way to implement an interesting mechanic into the game that actually matters, that feels fun to do, and that engages you in doing random stuff in the game, right? Like, I was totally engaged in looking for things to film because I wanted to see my recaps of them. That's awesome. That's also like a 9.5. Really solid. The reason I won't put this game in the 9s is what we saw with a lot of negative reviews. I liked the story in this game, but nothing happens, right? It's like, I enjoyed the journey of it, and I had an overall good time, but it's a story about essentially nothing until the very end. You have these small moments of mystery and these big moments where you kind of get together and cool things happen, but overall, it's a kind of like a big nothing burger where they could have had a mystery in the middle of it, right? They could have had the mystery happen early on. There could have been a missing girl. There could have been a missing person. Right? They could have had some crazy plot twist. What if Cat wasn't like? What if Cat like died in like 1994 or something? Right? There could have been some weird things in the game, some weird inconsistencies, especially with the camcorder. Right? I said this at the point. I was like, there were like scenes in the game where all the girls were looking off to the side, and I was like, what if there's a 5th person? What if they don't remember the 5th person? Right? There's a lot of stuff they could have done. Especially with the camcorder, there's a lot of things they could have done where you can have like inconsistencies. Like you film something and it's not like quite what you filmed. Like let's say you film like Cat doing something, but then she's doing something else in the recording, right? There's stuff like that they could have done, they didn't do. Yeah, I think I would have preferred for there to be something the girls are doing, right? There's a murderer, there's a missing person, there's a killer. We think Corey is a killer. We're doing like something out of the ordinary that really like creates some tension and suspense, and that makes you invested in the game instantly, rather than like an hour, like 5 hours in, 6 hours in, 7 hours in. That's probably where I'm at with that. So, overall, a really solid game, and a game that I would love people to play, a game I would recommend for people to play. I think if I'm trying to be like Teenage Lesbian Scooby-Doo, that would be awesome. I think I'm trying to be really objective with it. I'd probably put it somewhere in the 7s. But I think I wasn't bored throughout the game at all. I super enjoyed it. I would recommend people play this. It's an easy recommendation compared to Life is Strange, so I'm putting it somewhere in the 8s. Question is, how deep in the 8s can we go with this? I think I would give this, like... I think we're definitely skirting a 7 more than we're skirting a 9, just because of the kind of lack of anything happening. So I'd probably put this at like an 8.2 personally. We're at a personal Endaline 8.2 rating, which is pretty good. And I'm happy with that. Rating rating is a 7.5. We beat this in 17.7 hours. Yes. Released. Streaming, yeah. What do critics have to say? Hey, Ponderable's Records Moon Race proves to be a lopsided experience carried by a charming cast of characters and let down by its overall plot. Yeah, sure, very fair. A disappointment follow-up to Life is Strange that tells its story in the most frustrating way possible, but there's some signs. Follow-up Life is Strange. I mean, I guess. Taking issues aside, Lost Records Blooming Race succeeds in telling a meaningful story. What were those shadows I kept seeing? Shadow figures. That's a bug, right? Oh, it's part of the wiki. Every ghost encounter is the manifestation of someone who has been claimed by the Abyss? So this is us and this is Corey, I guess, right? We clearly saw... I mean, this is what we saw at the very end of the game. So we clearly saw... We saw Cat before. We got claimed at the end there. Okay, so it's not a bug. That's awesome. They're so brief, though. Should I have been able to actually film them? That's awesome. That's cool. I love that. Ghosts are often mistaken by players as visual artifacts or glitches. Not saying too much, you can see the silhouettes you're seeing are only from people that disappeared into the abyss, basically. Our content patch updated the note's appearance to resemble cats. Oh, are we saying that this was left by Cat? Weird. That's awesome. Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. That's a cool detail. I'll go bump the game up one. Alright, let's put another thing. Damn, this is the 6th game we played this year, and we're just in February. That's crazy. And we're almost at the point where we're gonna spam spin the wheel for a bit. Okay. I think that's a good wrap up for Lost Records Bloom and Rage. I think overall, a extremely good cast of characters with some good mechanics, good areas to explore, lots of fun, great choices, possibly a lot of replayability. That is held back, I would say, moderately by a very meandering plot that doesn't really go anywhere until the very end of the game. You know, if they had incorporated a type of mystery or an overarching, you know, thrilling narrative from the start, this probably would have been like on people's 10 out of 10 radar. But still an overall really, really solid package, so I'm super, super happy with it. Really happy with it, really happy with our choices in it. This menu, great, 10 out of 10. Good job. I would definitely say Naughty Dog, don't nod. Nice rant, Unk. Jeez, what's up, Unkaiser? I definitely say, don't nod, back to form. This is like a true return to form. Really happy with it. Music is great. Please keep making games like this. And work on the next one. Just fix the problems with this one. 10 out of 10 game. Love it. I am going to very, very quickly go and see if I can make anything to eat. But we are going to jump into horror game, unfortunately. I don't know why I decided to play horror game, but that's where we're at. Let me just jump over here. Right. Alright, I'm gonna quickly BRB.